Hey guys, welcome back to another Late Night Strange. And tonight I will be telling about my personal paranormal story that happened to me and my family when I was in my teenage years. It is almost Halloween, so I thought this would be a perfect time to tell this story for a spooky Halloween gathering. I will be telling about the haunting that drove me, my mom, and my 7 siblings out of the house in Wausau, Wisconsin. Stories like this are pretty much forbidden to be retold in my culture, as we believe it will attract or help the spirit find us again. That is only if you know the person who died and say their names multiple times. But for this case, we didn't know who was haunting us. We just knew what was haunting us. So in my culture, we don't like to say any person's name who's been deceased, because we believe that if you say their names too much, you will attract them and they will actually come to you, or you will conjure something up that you wish you didn't. So it's the same concept like as if you were to turn off the lights and say Bloody Marys 3 times. You will conjure something that, you wish you haven't. That is why I believe many YouTubers and podcasters who tell ghost stories are always having paranormal activities happen in their lives after telling a story or just saying the deceased's name so many times. Most will come out and speak about the things happening to them. Or there's, one example, I'm listening to this podcast and all of their equipment starts acting funny, or their audio won't record. And that's happened multiple times to multiple podcasters that I've listened to. And before even telling ghost stories at all, they never had any paranormal activities that, happened until they started telling these based on a true story ghost stories. And they would actually mention the person who was doing the haunting or the demon's name, the demon's name. And mentioning that just multiple times can really attract something that you don't want. Without further ado, let's get started. In my previous video, I mentioned there are many types of hauntings. And I believe since my dad passed away from his fight with cancer when we were young, my dad had to latch on to us, and no matter where we moved, strange things will follow. We thought it was just an old rickety house that we were just moving to, but as I and my siblings grew older, that was the only explanation that made sense to us. Ever since my dad passed away in 1998, we have moved 5 times, and no matter where we moved, strange things would happen, like doors moving, toilets sometimes flushing, just a creepy old footsteps that you'll hear go up and down stairs, and sometimes you would even hear it right above you in a room that we knew that was empty. Even with all of my brothers and sisters running around, the house always felt kind of empty. For us kids, we were pretty much carefree and always happy, but when we looked to our mom, she was always sad. And of course, having my dad pass away, she held on to that sadness for a very long time. And there's one time when I remember getting up really early in the morning and hearing her just sobbing in the kitchen. But as I kind of creeped and opened the door and snuck right over, right when I got to the door that I was going to enter the kitchen, I could hear she was talking to somebody. As I got closer to the entrance going to the kitchen, I could only make out a few words of my mom sobbing and just pretty much blaming my dad that he had passed too soon and left her with all the kids to take care of. So without disturbing her, I just kind of creeped right back to bed and pretend like nothing ever happened. Till this day, I still wonder if she was actually talking to my father or if she was just speaking out to the void. But all of those subtle paranormal activities would soon end when we moved to a house on 2nd Avenue in Wausau, Wisconsin. During that time, my 3 brothers and my 3 sisters and my mom, we all lived together in this one 3-bedroom house. This was an older home that had a dungeon basement, which was all full of concrete, which didn't bother us at all. As we reached our teenage years, we wanted to sleep in our own rooms because we grew up sleeping in just one room with my mom. Me and my 2 brothers would sleep upstairs in one room, and my 3 sisters and 1 brother would sleep in the other room across from us, while my mom slept downstairs in her bedroom alone. We lived there for 5 years before anything happened. I personally didn't experience anything until everyone started experiencing something. Having a single mother raise us was always rough, as she would be working the evenings, leaving us alone during the day after we came back from school. And with just that environment, my younger brother, he got involved with drugs. He was the first one to report having paranormal activities in the house, as we all called him a druggie and said it was just all in his head due to the drugs. We looked at him kind of like the boy who cried wolf. He was always claiming that there was always a little girl pretty much around him. And when he goes downstairs to go get food or water, he will see this little girl in the kitchen, which scared the crap out of him. So he ran back upstairs. And one time he also claimed that while he was sleeping, he woke up while my three sisters were sleeping on the other bed in the same room. He heard a little girl cry in a closet. So to his curiosity, he woke up to go open the closet door, and to see what it was inside. And as he opened it, he said that something reached out and grabbed his ankle. And right then and there, he pretty much woke up and realized that it was just a dream. Shortly after this dream, he got really sick. He got sick for like 2 days. At that time, we still didn't believe him because we were just thinking it might have just been his drug withdrawals, and he was just kind of experienced the psychosis. We didn't believe him until one day, him and his ex-girlfriend were upstairs, and while they were laying in bed, they capture the little girl that my brother kept talking about on their flip phone. So I was downstairs in my computer room, playing my games, while all my siblings, they were all downstairs too. And I heard footsteps just running downstairs, like somebody missed 2 or 3 steps. And my brother comes running up to me and was like, I finally captured her. I finally captured the girl that I kept talking about. I'm like, what the heck are you talking about? So he shows the flip phone to all of us. That time, all of us were all there, kind of huddled up, trying to see what the heck they captured. And while my brother and his ex-girlfriend was laying in bed, they were taking pictures, and you could see this 2 little hands at the edge of the bed and the top of the girl's head pretty much coming up. So she was kind of peeking over. And while, you click next on the photos, you can see her peek up, and you see the 2 eyeballs, and it peeks right back down. And I was just like, holy crap, It's like, I wish the ex-girlfriend still has this flip phone, because I would love, if she's listening to this right now, I would love those photos. But that was one thing that made us all pretty much believe him. We're just like, okay, maybe there's something to what he's been claiming. After seeing that photo, many of us didn't want to go sleep upstairs anymore. But 2 or 3 days later, we totally forgot about it and went back upstairs to go sleep. Some days when we slept up there, we did hear a lot of scratch noise coming from the walls, and pretty much the knocking sometimes in the walls. And we just kind of brush it off and blame it on the bats that live in the walk-in attic, because we did have bats too. So I'm still thinking maybe those were bats. But if you listen to the types of hauntings that happen and how they escalate, a lot of times they say, scratchings on the walls and knocking starts happening. And when I started thinking about that, I'm like, wow, we did hear scratches in the walls and knocks. So after that incident, a few weeks has gone by. And one day my sister came back home from school and said a few days ago, she woke up because her feet were cold and saw a dark shadow crouched down at the end of her bed. At first, my sister didn't think anything of it, because sometimes my mom would actually get off work at 2 a.m. and come and check up on us just to see if we were all in bed. But as this shadow just kind of sat there and didn't really move at all, my sister then said, "Mom, is that you? Mom, Mom." And then nothing at all. The shadow didn't even really move at all either. She said she felt very uneasy and scared after no reply. So she tucked up her foot really quick, curled up into a ball, threw the blanket over her head, and somehow fell asleep soon after. It wasn't until a few days later when she finally opened up and told us, which she said, she was kind of afraid of telling us because we might have just called her crazy like my druggy brother. Even after that, we were just like, maybe just seeing things or whatever, We kind of just brushed it off. We didn't want to believe it yet. We knew something was going on, but we didn't want to acknowledge anything yet. So shortly after that, my other sister that slept in the same room said that she woke up and she saw pretty much a head floating and it just kind of kept moving slowly, and it went all the way to the side of where my brother sleeps, went right there at the edge of the bed and disappeared. And she was so afraid to tell us or even talk about this. She kind of waited all the way until everything just started escalating before she told us. And then after that, my other sister, which, the three sisters and my brother slept in one room. The third sister now, she said that she woke up and she slept right by the window. And she claimed that she felt like something was telling her to look out the window. So she looked out the window and she said she saw a little girl in all white clothes standing in front of the light post, looking directly at the house. And she was just so freaked out by this too. She pretty much closed the window, threw the blanket over her head and went to sleep. Now the only ones that haven't seen anything is my other two brothers and me, who slept in the other room. But while we were sleeping in there, we heard scratches and knocks and stuff like that. We didn't really think anything of it at all. But at that point, my three sister and my druggy brother at that time have claimed to see something. And we're here just kind of scratching our heads like, okay, you know what, maybe there is really something going on. And that is when I was sleeping one day, and my older brother, which slept in the same room as me and my younger brother, because there was three of us that slept in one room. My other three sister and my brother slept in the other room. And in this room, we all slept in different corners. And my older brother said that he woke up and he saw this old lady that was in the middle of the room, and she was looking directly at me. And what she did was she walked all the way to the edge of my bed, and she came all the way down and looked me directly in the face and just stared at me. And when he told me that, I was like, why didn't you scream or why didn't you say anything at all? And he just said, he was just so terrified to the point where he just kind of threw the blanket over his head and went to sleep, And of course, I get it. I would have done the same thing too. But yeah, he said that he saw that. And I'm just like, what the heck, So a few months has gone by and we were just so terrified to sleep upstairs to the point where we brought some of our clothes downstairs and we all slept in my mom's room. Imagine that, 7 kids and my mom sleeping in one small room. If you were to throw a queen-size bed in that room, you would barely have any wiggle room at all, especially for 7 kids sleeping on the floor. Or, 2 kids on a bed and my mom. And then the rest of us 5 were sleeping on the floor. I mean, we were just so terrified of that place. We didn't really want to go to the bathroom by ourselves. We didn't want to go upstairs by ourselves. So every single time we went somewhere in the house, we had a buddy system. That was actually during the nighttime. When night fell, that house felt really, really, really dark. But when the morning came, we're just like, whatever, we still get a buddy system, but we could go to the bathroom. It's bright out. Nothing's going to be over there. So during all of this, we also had the house blessed a few times. I believe 2 times, and the third time was when it really pissed it off. We have people from the church and the priests. They'll bring a whole bunch of people there. They'll come over. They'll sing what we call vanlagu or else Christian songs and just bless the house. And we did it multiple times. I mean, this was the 3rd time we did it. And the 3rd time we did it, we pissed off something. Shortly after that, I had my wife over, which was my girlfriend at that time. We were in the living room watching movies while nobody else was in the house. And while we're watching the movie, I heard footsteps walking upstairs, and it went downstairs and upstairs. So I paused the TV, and I was like, do you hear that? And she was like, no. Like, what do you hear? I was like, I hear footsteps upstairs. And she's like, oh, quit trying to scare me. So I was like, okay, whatever. So I turned on the TV again, and like maybe 5 minutes has gone past, and I started hearing it again. I started hearing footsteps upstairs, walking, and it'll run downstairs, and it'll go back upstairs. And I'm like, I know we are the only people in the house. So I paused the TV again. I looked at her. I'm like, do you hear that now? And she looked at me like she was freaking out. And then she was like, yep, I heard that. So I told her, okay, let's get the hell out of here. So turn off the TV. We couldn't Netflix or chill at all because Netflix didn't, exist back then. So we just kind of went out the door and didn't really look back and waited until all my siblings came home. And then we went back. But that was the first time I ever heard something like that so clearly in the house where I knew that, it wasn't my siblings at all. So during this time, all of us has seen something or experienced something except for my younger brother and my mom. And it wasn't until we blessed the house a 3rd time where everything pretty much escalated. After the blessing, after the 3rd time, the house was kind of quiet. Nothing really happened at all for like 2 days. And the 3rd day, what happened was We all came home. Nothing really spooky happened at all. So we go to sleep. We're in my mom's room, and my mom comes home at 2 a.m. in the morning. And when she came home, she's working in a cheese factory. She smells like sour cheese. So her routine is to get off work and go straight to the shower and takes a shower. While she's in the shower, she started screaming in the shower. Gets out, bolts right out, goes through the kitchen into the dining room where the front door was. And in an Asian household, we have a lot of shoes, especially right at the front door. So she starts picking up those shoes and she started throwing those shoes at something and yelling at something that she only saw and we couldn't see at all. She starts saying all these stuff where, growing up in a household, especially a shaman household, when they see something that they don't like or they see something very spiritually, they only say these type of words. So she starts saying all those words and she started throwing all these shoes. She started spitting water at it because that's something that people do when they are pretty much fighting spirits, or shamans do that, But anyways, she started throwing shoes, started screaming at it. And we're in our room terrified of what is going on out there. So while all this thing was all happening, my mom said, quit laughing at me. Quit laughing at me. Aren't you embarrassed of yourself? She said that in Hmong, And while she's saying, quit laughing at me, I heard whatever that was laughing at her. And even till this day, that laugh haunts me because I'm getting the chills right now. But anyways, that laugh is so distinct. Tell you how it is or how it sounds like. It's because I slept right next to the vent, and when I heard this laugh, some people said that, oh, you know what, when I see a ghost, I am not scared. When I hear a ghost, I'm not scared. But when I heard this, my whole body just froze and I couldn't do anything at all. I was just so terrified to the point where my muscles gave up, my joints gave up, and I was just frozen solid. And I never thought that, like in my lifetime, I will actually hear or see anything like this before. This pretty much trumps me seeing my grandma. I've heard it through the vents. And when my mom was saying that, I heard the voice of whatever I was laughing at her. It sounded like this. It went. But at that time, I was just so freaked out, and I heard that, and I was just like, I thought I was the only one who heard it. But my sister also heard it too, and she was just so freaked out too, where she actually pretended to be sleeping. And I'm here wide awake, couldn't move at all, trying to figure out what the heck is going on, while my sister is sleeping on the bed, and she heard all of this. And she didn't tell me this until later on. She's like, yep, I heard the same voice too. And I was just like, oh my goodness, it's like, it wasn't just my imagination or me. I was like, you really did hear that also? She's like, yep, I heard the same voice you heard. And when I said, I made that laugh or that tone of laugh, she was like, yep, that's exactly what I heard. But anyways, my mom was doing that. She was throwing shoes and stuff like that, throwing shoes, spitting water, pretty much cussing at it. She came all the way to the bedroom and she opened the door and she slams it and she locks it. That's when I was like, Mom, what's going on? And she's like, oh, it's nothing. Go back to sleep. Nothing's really going on at all. And she rushed to her bedside, grabs the Bible, opens it up, and started reading verses in the Bible. And I shit you not, she was reading that Bible for 20 minutes straight. Reading, just trying to get her composure. And then she gets up, she closes the Bible, and then she comes to the door, and like something was like behind that door. So she comes closely to the door and she kind of cracks it open. She unlocks it and she opens it a little bit and she peeks out. And I see her doing this. I was pretending to sleep because she kind of like trying to make sure that we were all sleeping. So she kind of peeks out a little bit and then she kind of opens the door and then she walks back out. And while she's walking back out, tiptoe, I was closing my eyes, but I could visualize her walking through the living room to the dining room and into the bathroom again and check. And then she started screaming again. She somehow saw it again and she started screaming again. She runs to the dining room again. I'm not even lying to you guys right now. This is actually a true story. She runs into the dining room. She picks up more shoes and she starts throwing at this thing again while freaking saying are you not ashamed of yourself? Are you not embarrassed, to show yourself to me, and just saying all those stuff. And at this time, I didn't hear the laughing anymore. She was just saying all this stuff, and she came back to the room, slams the door, locks it, and she opens up the Bible again. She starts reading all her verses and started praying, and she did this for like 2 hours straight. But that time, I fell asleep already, but I was just kind of like waiting. But yeah, she said that she was up for like 2-3 hours, just versing the Bible and just praying. And then right after that, the sun was up. We were all tired, but you know what? We had to go to school. So we got ready. We were super drained of just what was happening here. We couldn't sleep at all. We went to school. We came back that same day, and then right when we got home, and it hit like 3:30 p.m., my mom called us up from work, and she's like, "Get the hell out of the house right now and say you are going to the store. Like, when you're getting out of the house, this is what usually we do in our culture. We tell it, we're just going to go to the store, and that is it. You never want to tell them where you're going, or else you never want to announce that you're getting the heck out of there. Because if you do that, this thing will latch onto you, and they'll follow you wherever you go. In order to avoid that, to say that you're going somewhere else. So by doing that, the entity that's in the house would be like, oh, they're coming back anyways. So that's a thought behind that. So she called us up, and she was like, get the hell out of the house right now. And right when she said that, we knew exactly what she meant. So we hung up the phone, and my younger brother, who hasn't seen anything yet, he was sleeping on a sofa, and we went over there, and we were like, hey, let's go to the store. I'm trying to wake him up, and he kept saying, no, I don't want to go to the store. I don't want to go to the store. So we got kind of got annoyed and kind of got pissed off. So we shook him a little bit, and we're like, let's go to the freaking store. And he didn't understand what that meant because he was still young. So me and my brother, we started beating him up, and then we threw him over our shoulders, and then we hauled him out of the house while he was crying, trying to escape our backs. And we threw him in the car, and we told him we are going to the store, because we couldn't tell him that we were actually going to leave the place. So we told him we're going to the store, and he's like, oh, that's what you meant. And we're like, yeah, you dumbass, that is what we meant. So we grabbed our backpacks, we pretty much jumped in the car, and we took off to our older brother, who lives on the east side of town. And he lives on his own with his wife and kids. So we went over there, and then when my mom got off of work, she came over there also, and then she told us that when we were actually at school, what happened was she was in the kitchen cooking, and she heard something running upstairs, like super loud, pretty much like stomping the house, stomping upstairs. And she was just so terrified to go check it out. She just kind of went, grabbed her keys, grabbed her stuff, grabbed her purse, and then she just kind of went back to the car and took off. And that was one of the last times we ever went back to the house. And we waited a few months. We still have like a 6 months lease after that, where we told the owner, hey, you know what, we're being haunted in this house. And he was just like, you know what, I don't believe you. You still got to pay me the 6 months rent anyways, the 6 months that you still have left. Instead of breaking the lease, we just, my mom just paid him the last 6 months, and we got the heck out of there. And then it was like 2 months later, we went back. And we want to go grab our social security cards and our birth certificates and everything. And that was the only thing that we were supposed to go there for. So it was my mom, me, and my sister. We went there. And while we were going there grabbing that stuff, I went to go grab the computer, and I went to go grab the PS3. We grabbed those electronics, and we didn't care about the TV at all. We left everything. Beds, our clothes, dish, everything, you name it, everything. We just went back for our birth certificate and those 2 items. And while we were grabbing those, right when we were about to leave, the door slammed shut. Boom! So we were like, screw that crap. We're going to go through the front door instead. So we went through the front door instead, instead of the back door. And we left and never went back ever again. And the only thing about that was, soon after, my mom finally came out and said, when she came home from work, she went to go take a shower, and in the shower we have the glass sliding door, and when it steams up, you can see through a little bit. And when she opened her eyes, she's putting shampoo on, she looked through, and she saw a little girl standing outside of the glass door. She freaks out. She says that she opens up the sliding door, and then it was gone. So she started gathering all her stuff, and she walks out of the bathroom. There she was again, and it was laughing at her. She got so freaked out to the point where fear turned to anger. And then she just started pretty much going berserk, throwing shoes at it. So yeah, my mom coming out and saying that she actually saw this little girl pretty much solidifies everything of what my druggy brother has pretty much claimed in the beginning. And with us just feeding it more fear, more and more and more, I believe this time it just manifested. And there's one thing that I kind of left out that I kind of want to bring up. So we lived in there for 5 years without anything happening at all. And then we started playing the Ouija board. That is what pretty much made everything turn upside down. So anyways, I bought a Ouija board. Yes, it was me. I bought a Ouija board and we went to my cousin's house because his house was claimed to be haunted. And they talked about paranormal activities all the time. There was a lot of us. There was at least like 9 or 10 of us that wanted to play this. And nobody wanted to buy it, so I bought it. And we went to my cousin's house and we played it there. We turned off all the lights, set up all the candles, and nothing happened at all. But we played it. Nothing happened at all. So we're like, you know what? Screw it. Nothing moving the planchette. So we put the box away and I brought it home. And I was playing with it a little bit. Nothing happened at all. I just slid it. I remember just throwing it under the couch and forgot about it. And then while that was in the house, strange things started happening. And that was when we went back to like, okay, what did we do that change the atmosphere of this house, or what happened along the way? Because we lived there for 5 years, nothing really happened at all, but somehow things just started escalating. And when we look back to it, yep, it was that Ouija board. And we actually went back to try to look for it and we couldn't find it anymore. So something happened to it, something made it disappear. But the board, like what I'm trying to say is that don't ever do tarot cards or don't ever play the Ouija board, because you never know what's going to come through it, even if the planchette does not move. Just having that board and just bring it out and just pretend and play with it, that's enough to open up doors and gates for unwanted spirits in your home. And hopefully you guys learned from this story and you guys enjoyed this story, because I do enjoy telling it and just kind of relive it a little bit. I was just having chills throughout my body the whole time because, you know, me telling this, this is actually a real story. A lot of people that we know about this story, and a lot of people that are close to us knows about this story. So it really did happen. But hopefully you guys enjoy this. For those of you who like this kind of content, please like and subscribe, hit the like button, throw a comment down below if you guys enjoy this or found some humor in it. But other than that, guys, I will see you guys on the next episode of Late Night Strange. And yeah, stay spooky, everybody. And happy Halloweens if you guys are listening to this on Halloween. So bye bye, guys. I'll see you guys again.